What do we see at Calvary? Perhaps the obvious way to answer this question is to imagine the sights present when we follow Jesus on his journey during Holy Week. Things which might naturally come to mind include the palms greeting Jesus upon his entry into Jerusalem, the donkey he rode in on, the disciples who accompanied him on his journey, the Last Supper, the wooden cross, the crown of thorns. During this Lent, a more reflective way to answer this question is not just to think about what we physically see with our own eyes, but rather, when we see these things, what is Jesus really telling us to open our eyes to?
Recently, when rewatching The Passion of the Christ, of special significance to our question is a powerful moment in the film when Jesus, carrying the cross, falls under the weight of its heavy burden. Mary, in rushing towards her son, recalls a moment from Jesus' childhood when he fell and she came to his aid. Mary, both at Calvary and in the flashback, comforts her son with the words, "I am here." Jesus' response, perhaps surprisingly, is, "I make all things new." In researching the origins of this statement, it is actually not found in any gospel, but rather in the book of Revelations at chapter 21, verse 5.
In exploring more into reasoning behind this decision of the filmmakers, a 2016 article by Father Terence Klein in America Magazine reflected as follows. Because what we call the way of the cross is Christ striding through time, Christ aging in the course of a few hours, Christ trampling toward death and making his way to the furthest reach of human sorrow, of our estrangement from God. If the old world, the one in which you and I were born, was one of sin, of alienation, of aging, and of death, Christ walks the way of the cross so as to claim it back for God. In the mystery of his incarnation, God the Son comes to die. God takes all that is ugly and old and rottenness in this world and draws it into himself. Here, death dies. Here, the old gives way to the new. Here, hope is reborn. This is why St. John brilliantly records Christ speaking of his passion as his hour of glory.
This new way of looking at a very familiar journey is a chance to gain a new perspective during this Lenten season. We are all now dealing with yet another Lent during a pandemic. We have all faced various difficulties over the past year. This Lent is a chance for us to look forward to the new, hopeful things to come, opening our eyes to the things we see every day, and taking the opportunity to open our minds to what God is really telling us. So ask yourselves this year, what do you see on this year's Lenten journey?